Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to another video. Battlefield Studios released a community update about Season 2, going over the community's response to Season 2, as well as the gameplay topics they're currently monitoring and looking at. For whatever reason, Battlefield Studios and EA act like an intelligence agency and treat everything they do like it's top secret. I really wish they'd just drop the Battlefield Labs NDA and just have some honest, open dialogue with the community. Look, I don't expect them to come out and say, yeah, our game is failing, but I would at least like some real talk rather than the marketing speak we typically get. And that's kind of their MO at this point, but if they think the community's idea just sucks, they should just come out and say it rather than just flying radio silent all the time. They seem to be pretending like everything is okay with the game, so let's see if they're actually on the right track here with this community update. As we all know, we in the community have been very loud with our feedback about the current state of the game, so let's see if they're actually acknowledging the important topics or if they're just missing the mark once again. So they start by saying, Season 2 released recently, and it's been great seeing so many of you jump into Contaminated and take to the skies with the Little Bird. We've been closely reading your feedback from the first days of the season, and want to take a moment to acknowledge some of the initial reactions we've seen, while also looking ahead at what's planned for the next phase of Season 2 and beyond. We've seen a lot of positive reactions to Contaminated. Many of you have called out the sandbox variety, flanking routes, and vehicle interplay as some of the best experiences you've had so far in Battlefield 6. The feedback is incredibly encouraging, and we can't wait to deliver even more. The time leading up to Season 2 allowed us to prioritize improvements to the quality of our updates, with additional effort focused on strengthening the overall experience. We are iterating our processes along the game to deliver the best content possible as we move forward. When you log in on day one of a season, we want the experience to feel polished, cohesive, and respectful of how you choose to play, whether that's a specific map, mode, or portal experience. From this initial statement, they only seem to be acknowledging the positive feedback. Yes, the Contaminated map is a good addition to the game, but that's about all there was with the update. Maybe this approach they do with these community updates is a stress survival mechanism that they practice studio-wide at this point, since there is so much negative feedback and sentiment from the community. But honestly, so far, it just sounds like they're only wanting to talk about their small wins rather than the overwhelmingly negative feedback. I'd appreciate it if they were just real with us. They say they took extra time to pay attention to the update quality, but they still introduced some new bugs to the game with the update. For example, the controller acceleration curves now feel completely broken, and me and all of my friends have noticed a large difference in our controller settings and can't get them feeling quite right. Additionally, all of my revive icons have now disappeared, so I have to look into finding a setting band-aid fix in the meantime. Soldiers now turn invisible sometimes as well, so it's not like the extra time they gave to delay the new season prevented those bugs from entering the game. It makes me wonder just how buggy the update was prior to this, and it confuses me that they're not catching these in Battlefield Labs like you would think. But let's dive into the topics that they say they are currently monitoring internally. Movement. Movement impacts every layer of gameplay, and updates here need to be deliberate and measured. With other gameplay systems evolving alongside it, we want to evaluate how the overall combat experience settles before making further changes. While I think the slide nerf was a good change, not allowing you to gain a boost from a slide, there are still massive problems with the way mantling and vaulting works, as well as the speed of the movement and the animation, which really needs a full pass. In addition, the amount of jankiness experienced while moving across environmental clutter like rocks, boxes, rubble, etc. is still jagged and unnatural. You seem to get caught on every little thing, which really just leads to a frustrating experience. So if they truly are monitoring the movement changes, these areas absolutely need addressing. However, it doesn't seem to be top of mind for them at this point. They go on to talk about progression here. Season 2 introduced improvements, but this topic remains an active and ongoing discussion internally. We're closely tracking how the Season 2 changes are landing and gathering data on how players engage with different paths. Our goal is for the time you invest, regardless of mode or playstyle, to feel rewarding and fair. Progression has been a consistent topic of discussion. We've continued monitoring data and reviewing your experiences, and it's clear that certain parts of progression, particularly within weapon mastery, are taking too long to feel rewarding. With the next phase of this season, we're introducing targeted adjustments aimed at smoothing the overall progression pacing and reducing unnecessary grind. Weapon mastery progression will feel faster and more consistent. We've tuned the mastery XP curve to smooth out attachment unlock pacing, increase the rate at which sidearms rank up so they align more closely with primary weapons, and moved camo unlocks earlier so cosmetic rewards arrive sooner in your progression journey. So it is good that they're aware of weapon progression and the problems with that, but we don't know the actual specifics of these changes, so it's still up in the air to see to what degree this will be improved. I have maybe 250 hours or so in the game so far, and I think I maybe have 3 weapons with all the attachments unlocked. It's actually kind of nuts. So if they are looking into this and basically decreasing the time it takes to unlock attachments by like 50%, then I think that would be a good change, but we'll see what actually happens. It really just is a shame, however, that a simple change like this couldn't have been done 2 months ago in a hotfix or a small patch. Battlefield Studios makes the most simple changes take months and months to implement. I don't know if this is an internal approval process that's causing this, or maybe the projects that management is pushing the teams to work on, but it all just takes way too long to change. At this rate, maybe the game will be in a better state in a year and a half or something like that. Further down the notes, they talk about Portal. Previously, we intentionally delayed adding new hardware to the SDK to allow additional time for stabilization and bug fixes. This included delaying the addition of the Little Bird, which will be added to the SDK in a future update. We're currently re-evaluating this approach for future seasons, so while this may not always be possible, our goal is to support new hardware in Portal as soon as it launches. It's good that they're talking about Portal changes, but they don't really seem to be acknowledging the actual issues with Portal here. Portal may as well not be in the game at this point with how unusable the system is. It's near impossible for good experiences to get recognized and played, and searching for even simple things like a good test range are the most difficult process. Portal needs a massive overhaul at this point, but I don't really believe that's going to happen. In the last sentence in the section, they state this: "We'll also be sharing a dedicated blog soon that takes a deeper look at ongoing quality of life improvements, including hit registration, netcode, time to kill tuning, soldier visibility, and audio updates." Hopefully with that blog they speak about here, they'll actually tell us the specifics of what they're planning to do for Battlefield 6. Right here, we get them doubling down on limited time modes. Limited time modes are one of the ways we keep Battlefield feeling fresh and full of new ways to play. They allow us to introduce new mechanics, environmental twists, and sandbox variations that expand how combat unfolds. Whether that's changing visibility, reshaping engagement ranges, or adding new tactical considerations. Not every LTM is meant to become permanent, but each one expands the toolbox. When an idea resonates strongly with the community, we have the flexibility to bring it back, iterate on it, evolve it, or integrate elements into the broader Battlefield experience. The freeze mechanic, introduced during Winter Offensive, is one example. While the event itself was time limited, the mechanic now lives on in Portal, allowing players to continue experimenting with it. This evolution is part of how we want to keep Battlefield 6 innovative and fun. To be honest, this idea of sticking to their guns about limited time modes is probably one of the most tone-deaf things I've seen thus far with Battlefield 6. It's pretty clear that someone at EA or Battlefield Studios in charge really likes the idea of doing limited time modes despite the overwhelming negative sentiment from the entire community about these. Nobody wants limited time modes. If they are limited time, they are a waste of time. It's a shame that we have developer time being dedicated to this, especially with the lack of resources they have. They then go on to talk a little bit about Redsec, which I couldn't care any less about if we're being honest, so Hopefully Redsec players will be happy that they're finally adding the solos mode, which could have been done within 3 days if this were something like Warzone. I find it funny that even something simple like adding a solos mode takes months and months to be added. So are they actually listening? It's all too little too late. The player base largely has abandoned the game, and you even have content creators who love Battlefield looking for other games to play now, which is crazy to me at this point. There are many things that don't seem to be on their radar right now that we also have to point out. These are in no particular order: proximity chat, glass cannon vehicle balance, map boundaries and objective location reworks on existing maps, cutting up the Redsec map into 4 or 5 additional multiplayer maps and adding them to the official map rotation, controller input feeling off post Season 2 update, janky traversal over sloped surfaces and environmental clutter, gender and face options for the customization system, adding a proper server browser, performance degradation, animation improvements, adding reticle size options, doing a 3D spotting rework, removing the sniper sweet spot, adjusting bullet velocities, adjusting the class system to split up the infinite health and ammo abilities, getting away from the content drip feed, etc. My biggest issue here is that they don't seem to be adjusting the way they do things. They're just kind of going along with the same plan. I want to see a clear commitment to supporting Battlefield 6 for the long haul, not that they're moving on to something like Battlefield 7 and don't have the resources. The community has done nothing but point out holes in the design direction of the game, as well as the roadmap for future content and fixes. However, it doesn't seem like they're willing to give any credence to this feedback. They still want to maintain their rigid management style and refuse to give the community what they're asking for. Now, I don't know if this is just because the studio has its hands tied by EA, but this style of live service, as they call it, will only continue to lead the game down the wrong path. That's why I keep saying that Battlefield 6 is likely near its final state at this point with the glacial pace of these updates. It just takes them too long to do anything, even for small, simple changes. When are these netcode, TTK, and visibility changes coming out? In October? I really want to like Battlefield 6. We want them to succeed, but they just seem to be getting in their own way most of the time. It makes you question as a player why you even bother sometimes. Me and my friends are playing the game so much less now because there are so many areas the game needs fixing, and they just come too slow, and there's no content. So we're really kind of in a rock and a hard place here. So what would I like to see from Battlefield Studios going forward? Like I said, the biggest thing that I want to see is honesty and transparency about the actual state of the game. It would be really nice if they just came out and explained different aspects of the game to us rather than leaving the community to figure out what their direction is by what they're doing with the updates. For example, with the movement, they could just come out and say, hey, this is the actual direction we want the movement to be. This is what we want the design to feel like. They haven't done anything like that, so there's an ongoing movement debate that always goes on. They could nip this in the bud and say, hey, this is what we're doing, and then everyone can live with it. That's really what they have to do, but they just kind of don't want to do that. So I don't know, there's a lot of stuff here that is concerning. I really hope that they do adjust their direction, but I don't really have the confidence that they will do that. I don't love being negative about Battlefield, and I really do want them to make this game great because it has such amazing potential. But what do you guys think? Do you think Battlefield is on the right path and it's going in the right direction? Let me know down in the comments, and subscribe if you want to. Thanks for watching.